Welcome to the Fabulous 413. I'm Khalees Smith. Monty Belmonte is baptizing himself and his family in the cool currents of the Atlantic, so if you're thinking along the lines of the Wilson sisters, this is a way for me to get alone, yes. Later in the show, we'll hear from Miss Annye Anderson, stepsister to legendary bluesman Robert Johnson. Although her book Brother Robert covers the time of their childhood together, she's had a much more storied life besides that, and we'll hear more from the woman herself. And continuing our Juneteenth extravaganza, we'll be checking in with Mpress Bennu. The organization Moving Mountains they're a part of is bringing a Juneteenth celebration to Greenfield next week, and we'll discover more about how freedom is being heralded there in Franklin County. And although we're offering plenty of options on how to celebrate the nation's newest federal holiday, we want to hear how you interact with the Juneteenth. Maybe your family has celebrated it before, maybe this is your first time hearing about it and its origins. Either way, send us an email to thefab413@nepm.org or text us 1-800-639-9120. But first, language.
The smartest clipper you can find is ho-way.
We're with Word Nerd Emily Brewster of Merriam-Webster in Springfield, which is where the dictionary building is, right around the corner from my house. But don't come looking for my house, as I constantly say. But go look at the building that the dictionary is in, because it's pretty cool. What are we talking about today, Emily?
I thought we would talk more about some phrases, because we got through so few of them last time, and phrases are so fun.
They are. They're hilarious.
Yeah.
Which phrases are we talking about today?
Well, last week we talked about slush fund, and it's has this nautical origin, and there are a number of other common phrases that also have the same nautical link. It's really interesting to think of how, for what period of time speakers of the English language lived on an island only, right? Like right. The island of England was this just island. And then for so long, people also were kind of, crowded around the eastern seaboard of this continent. And so these terms related to boats and sailing and all things nautical, they used to be probably far more transparent. I'm sure they were actually far more transparent to the average speaker than they are now. So we've kept the phrases, even though we no longer have the nautical life prominent in our minds.
Although we can go back to the sea anytime we want. Make your own vessel. Go see the Constitution.
Sure.
Okay, so nautical terms that are now commonplace on the land.
Yeah, this is going to surprise you, okay?
Just like humans coming from the sea and getting on land and staying there.
And also being surprising.
Yes.
Yes. All right. You take something to the bitter end, right? Which means the last extremity, however painful or calamitous it is, right? That's the bitter end. That is probably, but not definitely, a nautical phrase. So there are actually two theories that are given as explanations. One suggests that the phrase derives from the nautical term bitter end. On a ship, the word bitter is used for the turn of an anchoring line around the bitts, which are the posts that are fixed to the deck for securing lines being ropes on boats, right? Don't ever tell a sailor that something is a rope, because it isn't, it's a line. The bitter end is the inboard end of the anchoring line. And when the line is all the way extended out to the bitter end, there's no more line. Then you are literally at the end of your rope.
Oh.
Yeah, that's
cool.
That's the end of the line. That is the bitter end. Yes. Now, end of the line does not necessarily come from the same source. End of the line, it's not clear where it comes from. There's so many the word line does so many different things that are also commonly made into metaphors. It could be railroading, right? The end of that kind of a line. Yeah, there are other kinds of lines that have ends. So many of them have ends. So
like Toto.
Like Toto. Did Toto get to the bitter end?
I mean, at the end of that song, I feel like maybe they do.
Now, there's another theory that bitter end is not at all nautical, and that it actually comes from the Bible. There's a phrase in the Bible, but her end is bitter as wormwood and sharp as a two-edged sword. And the suggestion there is that death is the ultimate bitter end. And by extension, any difficult ending or a defeat is a bitter end. Now, etymologists think that the nautical origin is more likely, but it's not definite.
It seems more likely to me only because the biblical one seems like a massive paraphrasing for what they're trying to get to.
Sure, yeah. But I mean, biblical phrases that also has great cultural prominence for 1,000 years. And so there are definitely phrases that are biblical for sure.
Maybe it's not mutually exclusive. Maybe it's both.
Oh, sure. No, that's also very possible, right? Like, what does a phrase bring into the mind of one person as opposed to what it brings into the mind of another? So,
Also, it would be like fitting and also kind of funny if boats had more biblical terms for the things on them for years before it got meeting more people and expanding nautical vocabulary for being on ships and all of the terms there. Who knows? I don't know much about archaic navalry. Is that I don't think that's, well, you know what? Language is constantly evolving, sometimes right here in my mouth.
are you ready for another
Yeah, bring it
nautical
on.
phrase? All right. 3 sheets to the wind. Monty is going to be
Oh,
sad he missed this one,
he
right?
is.
Because being 3 sheets to the wind is being drunk. This phrase goes back to the early 19th century. Sheets in this expression is not bedclothes, right? It's not the sheets that you change on your bed, but actually it's sails. The sails on a boat are also called sheets. Actually, the sheets are ropes or chains that are attached to the lower corner of a ship's sails and used to extend or shorten the sails. And if you were on a 3-sailed vessel and all 3 sheets were loose, like, flapping around in the wind, then the boat would be would just like be uncontrollably wandering like a staggering drunk on the waves. So, so
Drunk
it
ships.
drunk
Drunk
ships,
ships and
yes,
bedclothes.
yeah. So apparently, old-time sailors used to say that someone who was only slightly tipsy was just 1 sheet in the wind. And
Ooh.
then somebody who is, rip-roaring drunk was 3 sheets in the wind.
You
And then,
progressively accumulate more sheets the drunker you get.
yes.
Taking a little bit more than their daily grog, shall we say.
And 3 sheets to the wind is now to the wind instead of in the wind is the more common phrasing. That seems even more perilous to me. Like if you're on a boat and the sheets, those lines are actually they're to the wind. They are not. You can't even grab them and tighten them again. You should just go to bed.
Well, and it's super dangerous to grab those ropes when they're loose. That is how a lot of sailors would lose limbs, trying to grab ropes that were like thrashing, and then you get caught between the line and the mast, and that's your arm gone.
See, this is all a reminder why I'm not a sailor at all.
It's potentially safer now, in theory. Okay, what's our next phrase? Emily Brewster, resident wordster, senior editor at Merriam-Webster.
Pipe down. This one is also nautical. Means like to stop talking or to stop making noise.
That seems ironic because wouldn't you be able to talk less with your pipe in?
Well, a pipe aboard a ship, a pipe is a whistle that's used to summon a crew or to relay orders. And so the sound, if you sound this instrument, if you blow this whistle, it's referred to as piping. So a crew would be piped to a meal, for example. If you wanted to dismiss the crew, the bosun pipe would be sounded and the command would be to pipe down, to be dismissed. Because it got much quieter after the dismissal, that command then became associated with quieting down or making less noise. Crew is gone. They've piped down and they're probably making noise somewhere else, but maybe not.
They're smoking pipes on the deck now, now that they've been piped down.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting to think of pipe down as transitive, right? Like we tell people to pipe down. We don't tell them to pipe down themselves. But originally, a crew was piped down. Seems very aggressive.
Yes, in all ways that you could maybe interpret that. Also, like if you're using really loud pipes, I mean, that seems a little abrasive to call people. Also, it's loud sometimes on the ocean, so I can understand why you'd need something that would carry sound-wise a little further.
Yeah, we can't blame them for their whistles. I mean, I can't blame them for any of this, of course.
They had to get around somehow. You can't take horses in the ocean. And also dolphins are really hard to train, it turns out, at least for like traveling purposes. Although, I mean, like a girl can still dream. Right. Do we have more nautical phrases?
I've got one more, and that is the phrase by and large, which of course means on the whole.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right. By and large. It is a weird phrase once you think about it. Why is it like, oh, by and large, this means blah, 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 or by and large, it was a lovely event, right? But why by and large? It's very strange. Well, it comes from sailing. By and large refer to the ability of a vessel to sail both on, as in toward the land, toward the wind, and off, which means away from the wind. And in this context, the word by basically means near or at hand. And the word large means with the wind on the quarter. So a vessel that sails well by and large can sail close to the wind or away from the wind, off the wind.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So just a versatile ship?
I guess. I mean, I think it also no, I think it has to do with the sailing conditions. My grandfather was a sailor, and he would, I'm sure, be horrified to hear how stilted my discussion of these nautical terms is. I don't
Look, some of these phrases are getting reinterpreted as they
Yeah.
become landlubbers, and we just
Yes.
have to all move on with that.
Yeah.
But it's
Right.
cool. Like it seems like it seems more like it would apply to the maneuverability of a ship as opposed to the conditions for the ship. So that's really neat too.
Well, the
Like I
maneuverability has to do with what the conditions are, right? Like if you don't have wind, you can't do anything.
right. But
So
also if you've got like a much larger, like giant crude ship, the ones that are carrying like platoons or like troops are much larger and like have bigger firepower, but sometimes you can have a smaller ship like run circles around them. And it seems like interesting that like they both could be by and large, whereas I would automatically assume that the smaller one was by and large because it can maneuver a little better. But it's cool that it applies to both.
who knew? Well, and
Who
I
knew?
think it's so interesting how these phrases really depart from we you don't actually need to know the source of a phrase to use it because it goes on and has a life of its own and does whatever it wants in the language or whatever the speakers of the language want it to do. So it's really completely removed now from its nautical origin for many people.
Well, you can only take your language out on the sea so much. Eventually, you got to stay on land, or you take your language with you to the bottom of the ocean. This got real dark. Let your language live on the land where it can continue to evolve and mean new and interesting things. As opposed to taking it to a watery grave. Oh no, it just got worse. Thanks, Emily Brewster, resident wordster. We speak more like pirates than we think.
I need to.
Thanks to Emily Brewster, senior editor at Merriam-Webster. If you've got a linguistic question, send it to us at thefab413@nepm.org or text to 1-800-639-9120. Later in the show, we've got blues history and more with Ms. Annye Anderson, and up next, Juneteenth in Greenfield with Mpress Bennu. It's our June membership drive at NEPM, and we're taking just a few minutes to talk about the importance of listener support. Here's John Sutton.
We are funded primarily by listener contributions. Listener donations pay for just about everything we do here, and we like it that way. It means that we can bring you programs such as the Fabulous 413, not your typical public radio program, and we are very, very proud of that. And we're going to talk a little bit about that over the next couple of minutes. I want to let you know that if you already love the show and we don't have to convince you to give, then just do it right now at nepm.org or call 888-639-8850. It's my pleasure to be in this studio with Khalees Smith, and it's kind of audacious, right? Fabulous 413.
Even though you're only getting half the package.
But you got, well, I'm talking about the name of the show at this point, because it's your show. You call it Fabulous 413.
It is, because it's pretty
audacious,
fabulous
and
here.
yet you're living up to it. So what do you just share with people what they're trying to accomplish with the show?
Well, Monty always describes it as Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood for adults, and I think that's pretty spot on. My take on it is always that there are so many cool things that happen in the area. Maybe you missed one, and we're always scouring this really rich area that we live in for the neat, cool things that we can share with all of you. And so hopefully we're getting everybody to discover something new and interesting while listening.
And we're asking you to support that if you like it by making a call at 888-639-8850 or at nepm.org. And you can give any amount. A lot of people start off by giving $50 as new members. It's less than $1 a week for everything that you get from this radio station. Maybe you can give $5 or $10 a month. And you don't have to be a new member. If you are, that's great. If you've never given before, we'd love to welcome you. But maybe it's time to renew your support, or maybe you just like this new program and you're already a sustaining member. You can maybe make an additional contribution to help pay for this unique program that we hope that you are enjoying and that you will support. 888-639-8850, nepm.org.
Many listeners are signing up to NEPM on our monthly sustainer plan, which is pretty great. You'd make a recurring monthly contribution from your bank account or your credit card. Just takes a couple of minutes to set up, and that monthly contribution will help keep the Fabulous 413 on the air. It's easy to do at nepm.org or by 888-639-8850.
You know, one of the things that I love about this program, and I think a lot of people who have shared their comments about it, is that they're exploring the 413 in ways that they would never, ever be able to do. You know, the beauty of radio is that you don't have to be in a vehicle. You don't even have to go on a march to explore the fabulous 413. All you have to do is come to this radio station, stream it online, listen to the podcast. If you appreciate being able to travel with Monty and Khalees throughout the region, please support us with a contribution. The phone number 888-639-8850, nepm.org.
And coming up, we're doing more with Juneteenth all around the area because there's so many celebrations happening. It's one of the coolest things about doing this show, finding out all of the ways that you can participate in your community.
So make that contribution to support the Juneteenth programming, everything you hear in the station. We're going to get back on with the show, okay? So it's time to do that. But here's the phone number, 888-639-8850. And yes, I just told you to do something else with your ears while this is coming up. Why not give online where you can listen and make a contribution at the same time, nepm.org.
The best time to support NEPM is right now. It only takes a couple of minutes to give. You can give a one-time gift or sign up as a monthly sustaining member. No matter which you choose, your gift helps keep the Fabulous 413 on the air and available to everybody. Yay! Okay, so we are back. Welcome back to the Fabulous 413, being the actual Fabulous 413. I thought I would have music, but that is okay. And we are gearing up for freedom. That is to say, we are super excited for the newest federal holiday, Juneteenth, and all of the celebrations, the occasion that are happening around the 4 counties of Western Mass. Today's festivities are being put on by Moving Mountains, and that organization will be having a Juneteenth celebration on the holiday itself next Monday, in case you've forgotten. That's June 19th. And with us in studio is the founder of Moving Mountains and organizer for their Juneteenth events, Mpress Bennu. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
I'm going to move this so I can actually see your face. So what's your connection to the holiday? Before we get into your event and all of the things that it's going to be bringing to Greenfield beyond, just our general freedom and finding out about it, like, have you celebrated it? Were you celebrating it before, or is it a recent thing for you?
No, actually, this is something that has been a tradition in my family. It stems back to my grandparents and my parents, and I carried it over, but now I'm carrying it over into a different capacity right now. So I'm really excited about Juneteenth this year because, as you said, this is actually the second year I'm doing Juneteenth. And I'm from Greenfield, Massachusetts, and one of the reasons why I started doing Juneteenth was a means of bringing our community together at a difficult time last year, and it was a way for me to engage not just the older members of the community, but also the younger members of the community, and using it as a teaching tool as well. So I promised that I would be back this year bigger and better, and I kept my word. Yay!
Well, what are some ways in which you celebrated Juneteenth in Greenfield before you were throwing the big event? Mm-hmm. Like, how did your family celebrate it before?
Cooking.
Cookouts and good times?
Yeah, cookouts, good times.
I mean,
yes.
there are few better things than cookouts and good times, frankly. And if you get an invite, which is how I feel about like most of these celebrations happening, it's like it's other people's invite to the cookout. Yes. Behave.
That's right.
But for your celebrations this year, what's happening? What do you have planned?
Oh, wow. We have a full list of stuff that's going on
That's
this
good.
year. Last year, when I did it, it was basically, I didn't really have a lot of vendors. I had some performers last year, but this year I will say that I'm happy to announce I actually have almost 40 vendors right now.
Wow.
Yay. I'm really excited about that. You know, Greenfield definitely represented, and Springfield and Vermont. So I don't want to leave nobody out.
You're getting it from a wide range.
Yes.
That's wicked cool.
Yeah, so we have almost 40 vendors this year, so that's going to be great. We also have Hazel's Kitchen food truck, who's actually probably well known out in Springfield and Amherst and Chicopee. He's going to be serving West Indian cuisine in Greenfield this year.
I have to say that, and this is like a small aside, my partner and I have been trying for, I think, 4 years now to get to Hazel's.
Really?
And every time we go, some sort of thing like impedes us from it's closed, or there's a Black Lives Matter march happening in front of the place, which is true. That did happen at least once. Like we have never I've had their food at other places. I have never successfully actually gone to that restaurant and had the food.
Monday. You can find them Monday.
Yeah, but it will still not be at the restaurant. It'll be at your event. But I'm glad they're coming there because their food is fantastic.
Yes, and also this year in Greenfield, this is actually the first ever Taste of Greenfield, and I'm also doing a citywide youth parade. And one of the reasons why I wanted to do the youth parade, because as I mentioned, I definitely am dedicated to young people. And I try to use my platform as much, not just for entertainment, but also for educational purposes. So there's so many other celebrations going on, but I just feel like we have so many talented young people in and around Greenfield. And this would be something that they can actually show off their talents to. I will say that I actually used to be part of the Caribbean Carnival here in Springfield, organizing the parade. So when I left Springfield 3 years ago, I kind of took that 413 energy with me to Greenfield. So thank you.
You can see it in the fact that some Springfield vendors are coming up to your event too. I would say that. So this is the first Taste of Greenfield in conjunction with your Juneteenth event. How did that come about?
I'm just original. I kind of like to be a leader, and I like to be the first in a lot of things. And I'm an original thinker, and I always try to see, well, what's not being done? What can we do that we're not doing? And like I said, when I first started to mention, that I wanted to do Taste of Greenfield, people's eyes was wide open, like, wow, that's never happened before. And I said, well, let's do it. And so I was like, of course I'm driving myself crazy by trying to organize a second Juneteenth, but why not do a parade and Taste of Greenfield too? And so it's like from there, I started garnishing a lot of support from the community, as you could tell, and needless to say, I'm very excited of where it's going.
How do you think this is? Let me rephrase this because that sentence was about to go off the rails. How has this celebration of Juneteenth grown from your previous celebration?
Okay, well, last year I had it in a smaller area. I had it at Energy Park. And like I said, we had Chad Hot Diggity Dog. He's one of my vendors. He's coming back this year. He gives free hot dogs and chips, and so does the kids. Hello. Hi, Chad. So, and I had him there as well, but I had like I said, like Style FX, one of the hip hop dancers, in Greenfield, and some other performers like Strings for Kids. They're also going to be there this year, along with Music of Franklin. It's also going to be there, but but like I said, it was in a smaller venue. But now this year, it's in a field. It's in a field, and like I said, there's a range of events, not just in the park, but outside of the park as well, along with a long list of performances and speakers and vendors, and so many people's going to give away free giveaways all day. So cotton candy, anything that you can think about is going to be there, and I said it the other day, and I'll say it again, I just think that is great, just the way that it just goes to show as far as where Greenfield is now, and me as a Black woman being able to be who I am and being able to create something like this and just have the community rally behind me really says a lot, and I can never not give all my love and respect to Greenfield and say thank you for supporting me.
That's wonderful. We're here with Mpress Bennu of Moving Mountains, talking about their Juneteenth celebration happening on Juneteenth, June 19th, in Greenfield. Now, you've clearly got a bigger thing happening, so it had to move, but there's no doubt in my mind that you're constantly thinking about like next year and how much bigger it's going to get. What's a thing that you would really love to have at your events in the future?
Okay, so since we're talking about next year, I will say next year is 2024, and it's already in my head like, year 3. It's like if every year I'm growing, I want to go all out for the 3rd year. So I'm thinking about moving it to the fairgrounds. The fairgrounds is almost like, if you look at the Big E out here, the fairgrounds in Greenfield kind of like reminds you of that. I would like to have something like a youth carnival with the rides, the whole 9 yards, have some performers come out. I'm just put that out there for now. Any sponsors, anybody who would like just speaking into the universe, right?
Maybe it'll have it manifest around you.
Exactly.
We're into that.
Yes, so I definitely want to go on a different level next year, but I want to maintain the same concept as far as uniting the community and using my platform for the young people. And I will say, because anybody that knows me knows I do stay true to culture. So after Juneteenth, I also have 3 other events going on this year. It's going to be July 2nd, August 13th, and September 3rd in Energy Park. And it's going to be called Easy Listening Sundays and Reggae Sundays. So the first Sunday is going to be a Frederick Douglass community reading. If anybody would like to be involved with that, any of the listeners who would like to be part of that reading, please reach out to me.
We're actually going to be doing a story about that a little bit later.
You see how it works together?
I know.
Yes. So definitely reach out to me at my website, www.movingmountainsmedia.org. And August 13th, I'm going to have Culture Sundays. I will say that the DJ, Napstar, a.k.a. my fiance, is wonderful. He's the DJ last year, the DJ this year, so he plays all the best in culture music. And September 3rd is going to be a back-to-school block party. So that's going to be in Energy Park in Greenfield, Massachusetts from 12 to 3. Busy, busy, busy.
Yes, but bringing good, fun things for everybody to come together and have, fun at.
Right.
Are there any educational components to your Juneteenth festivals?
Yes. Well, like this year, I added the Greenfield Historical Society I'm going to be doing a presentation. And they're actually going to speak a lot as far as the Civil War and as far as a lot of the history of Black Americans in Greenfield and a lot of history. So they're going to present a lot of information that a lot of people didn't know. As a matter of fact, did you know that Frederick Douglass gave a speech in Greenfield in 1860? Don't get me lying. But in 18...
He gave a speech in Greenfield.
In the 1800s at Washington Hall, Frederick Douglass walked the streets of Greenfield, Massachusetts. As a matter of fact, usually everywhere I go, I have that paper with me, and that's a fun fact. So I don't know where I left it. But yes, you need to look it up. Frederick Douglass came to Greenfield, Massachusetts at Washington Hall and gave a speech. So that was fascinating. And the tickets was 33 cents. Can you imagine how much it would be now? Telling somebody, imagine if that was Obama right now. How much would those tickets be?
I mean, I feel like we'd be down either way, right?
Yeah.
But he has a lot of ties to this area in general, like through the Ruggles Center and dealing with David Ruggles and speaking all around. Our area has a lot more ties to him and people in abolition than we often remember. But that's cool. I also love that Juneteenth is an opportunity for people to learn more about American culture.
Yes.
I don't need the modifier for it. It's American culture.
Yes.
Okay, so your event, one more time, when is it happening?
Monday, June 19th, Greenfield, Massachusetts. Beacon Field, be there or be square is the only place to be. Come on out.
What is the thing you are most excited about happening this Juneteenth?
There's so much. Oh, my goodness. The parade. The youth parade. I'm not gonna lie. That's in me from, like I said, being part of the carnival here in Springfield to marching in the parade. It's just something about a parade that just excites me. It's just a whole excitement.
I mean, hopefully it'll excite everybody else too, right?
That's the point.
And where can they find more information about the Juneteenth happenings?
You can find it at www.movingmountainsmedia.org, or you can find me on Facebook under Mpress Bennu, and that's MPRESSBENNU.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Mpress,
you.
for coming on the show. Mpress Bennu is the founder and organizer behind the Juneteenth celebrations happening in Greenfield. Go check them out on June 19th. It's time to take a moment to ask for your contribution to NEPM. Here's John Sutton.
And we are funded primarily by listener contributions. You might think, well, this is a government-funded radio, and we get a tiny bit of money from the federal government, but the single most important source of income that we have comes from people who step forward and give $5 a month, $10 a month, $20 a month, maybe $50, less than $1 a week, because you like what you hear, you want to have it available for yourself, and you want to make it available for the next person to discover. If this is a show that you want people to know about, make sure it stays on the air with your contribution right now. The phone number to give is 800-639-8850. That's 800-639-8850. You could also give online at nepm.org. And we are asking you to step forward and invest in a program that is new. It's awesome. It's fabulous. And here's Khalees Smith.
I think that it is fabulous. Not just the alliteration either. We've been finding out so many cool things about us as a community, as a larger system of humans just living together, and all of the cool things that we can get up to and into by doing the fabulous 413. And it's been really wonderful to share that with you. And hopefully with a little bit of your contribution, we can maybe move on to having transcripts of the show.
Big ambitions revealed today during the membership drive for the fabulous 413. Well, I'm a relatively new transplant to the area, and I have to say that geographically, the 413 is really interesting because it's really doesn't feel like a cohesive place. And I actually think one of the things that the show actually starts to do that, if you're brand new, especially, you're trying to find your way around. It's like, which side of the river am I on? And it's like, well, just keep driving because it's going to wind under you here in a few minutes, right? And so
the river covers all sides.
The river covers all sides, right? And so here you are, and you're learning about this community. Maybe you've lived here a long time, maybe you're new here, but you're exploring the community way with Monty and Khalees that you probably never have done before. And we hope that you'll put a value on that and make a contribution. And we ask because it's listener donations that keep local programs like this on the air, allows us to do even more of this kind of thing in the future. If you give right now, it's first day of the membership drive, please show your support. The phone number, 800-639-8850. You can also give online at nepm.org.
We're encouraging you to contribute to NEPM by becoming a monthly sustainer. This is a great way to support the station. It just takes a few minutes to set up, and consider starting at $5 or $10 a month. It's automatically deducted from your bank account or credit card, and you'll be set up in no time. It's easy online at nepm.org or 800-639-8850.
So when was the last time that you were new to something besides this radio show?
All the time.
All the time.
All of the time.
So you don't have any fear of doing new things.
Oh, no.
Right, but there are a lot of people who don't become new members. Like, we ask, why didn't you give? And the first answer is, well, I thought somebody else. I thought they were talking to somebody else, not me, like a patron of the arts or something like that. But then one of the other things people say is I'm never sure that I really should give money to something that's brand new until I hear more about it or whatever. So what I want to do is say, become a new member and take away that fear. First of all, we make it easy to give. You set up a monthly sustaining membership of $5 a month, $7.50 a month, $10 a month. If you ever want to change it, we make that really easy. We don't have training for the staff here to try to keep you in the fold. They're going to say, how can we help you? So there's really a kind of a risk-free commitment. But the other thing is that this organization. You're a listener to this radio station. We're a companion. You invite us into your house. You invite us into your car on the weekdays, on the weekends, when you're not even necessarily presentable to the public. So you know us, and we're asking you to support us by becoming a new member now.
This is the best thing about radio. You don't have to be presentable.
That's correct. 800-639-8850. Oh, I know. nepm.org.
Later on in the week, we're going to get into more Juneteenth things. We might hit a little bit of Holyoke Pride, but we'll definitely have live music this Friday. It's been one of the best and most fun things that we've done on this show. And if you're thinking that we're still new, we're actually about to hit our 80th show, and in the next month we'll hit 100. So, are we still considered new in that case?
That's a really interesting question because it's only been since, late February. So that makes it feel like it's new. But boy, you guys have covered a lot of territory, including a live show at the Asparagus Festival.
And we're about to do more.
So, yes, for those of you who've been listening, it may not be new, and that means it's time to support this program. But we're not asking you to just support this program. We're asking you to support the entire station. My guess is that you probably tune into this show 2, 3, maybe 4 times a week. Maybe not be able to catch it every day. Maybe you catch it on the podcast, and that's great. But you're probably listening to other programs, Morning Edition, All Things Considered, Weekend Edition, Wait, Don't Tell Me. The more of these programs that you listen to, the more we play a role in your life in helping you keep up with what's going on in the world and learning what's going on in your own backyard. If that's you that I just described, please step forward, support all of that listening. All of a sudden, $5 a month is not a lot of money for all you get from this radio station. You can make that contribution at nepm.org. You can give us a call at 800-639-8850.
It only takes about 2 minutes of your time, and we need your name and a little contact information, which we keep private. And you can sign up as a sustaining member with a recurring monthly payment from your bank account or credit card, or you can make a one-time gift. It's really easy on our website at nepm.org, or you can call 1-800-639-8850.
So we have a little bit more time than we thought in this fundraising break, and so
tell people more fun things that are coming up.
Well, we can do that, but I want to know what you learned that you didn't know. Like, what are, do you have a top 2, 3 things,
That's a very interesting thing to ask me this week when I am alone on this show and doing things. So what I've learned is that I can edit much faster than I thought, which is a thing I was not necessarily expecting. But that, I think the main thing that this show has me constantly learning is that we're all closer than we think. And we're all more connected than we think. And if this show is a thing that can show that to other folks as well, then I will be unbelievably happy that that was the case.
So, that's awesome. And the thing that's really interesting about that is that we talk about the facts, we talk about the news, but ultimately the facts and the news don't do anything by themselves, right? It's when we take that information and we turn it into knowledge and then understanding and then empathy. And that's kind of what the show is doing. It's connecting us by helping us feel one another as opposed to just talking at one another. And I think that's a really great benefit of this show. And if you agree, we're asking you to step forward with a contribution. $50, less than $1 a week, $5, $10, $20 a month. The phone number to call is 800-639-8850. You can also give online very easily at nepm.org.
So, up next, we are going to speak with Miss Annye Anderson, who is the stepsister of bluesman Robert Johnson. Yes, that Robert Johnson. But the cool thing about her life is that it's so varied and so wondrous in all of her 97 years, producing a book really late in life and then becoming a figure in the area who is larger than that life. It was really cool to get her in the studio.
I'm a talker. In fact, people have to run away from me. And my daughters don't like to go shopping with me because I entertain. That's an entertainment place. But I take this after my father. No one is a stranger to him. And he could hem you up. You trying to get away? Well, the same thing. That body language. And I see it, but sometimes I'm selfish. I keep talking. And I know I can get on people's nerves because I'm repetitive.
I don't see how that's possible. You have 97 years and all these stories, so why not?
Well, you'd be surprised. I've been there. There are a lot of things that I have seen because people don't know about Brother Robert.
I'm going to send you back to your mother, baby. Lord, and I'm going back to my family, too.
How did you end up here in Massachusetts?
Well, my sister Carrie, who partially reared me and also reared Brother Robert, they were close, and they were sisters, but yet whole sisters. Same mother, but not the same father. And she wanted me to come up in 1948. I was still in my teens, but I decided that I wanted to come up. And she was living in Churchton, Maryland. She had come up to be near her son, who was in the Navy, and he was stationed in Annapolis, Maryland. And from there to D.C., and from there to Massachusetts. So that's how I got here. And my husband was studied at Lemoyne. That was our college there. From there, he went to Harvard University. He studied under Dr. Charles Drew. Yes, I'm sure you know who
I
he
know
is.
who Charles Drew is. And
Right.
For anybody who doesn't know who Charles Drew is,
And
Charles
I
Drew is a
met
medical
him.
pioneer. So your husband went to Harvard and studied in the medical school.
And he
but
was a
that's-
scientist, and he had
amazing.
a scholarship which allowed him to work with Dr. Charles Drew. So my husband wanted me to meet Dr. Charles Drew. So I did go. I was expecting my first child, but I went anyway. And he had a lot of chickens in his lab. And I never thought to ask my husband, why were those chickens, how were they connected with the blood bank? But evidently they did. Somewhere I had a photograph of his lab, and I haven't been able to find it. Hopefully I'll find it and publish it in my book. But he got his master's from there. Mm-hmm.
So your book was published not too long ago. You were already in your 90s, and you'd been working on this book with a collaborator who'd made a book about the Chitlin circuit. Did you find that book, or did they contact you?
I found the book.
Okay. And then you contacted
But
them about it.
My daughter, who is internet savvy, she did it for me. It took a while, and I found the book when it dropped in one of the bookstores locally, and I saw his face on the cover. And I said to myself, what does he know about the Chitlin circuit? That's a black thing. Mm-hmm. But something said, take the book and read it. So I took the book, picked it up, and went to the back and read through it. And lo and behold, this man knew everybody. I knew all of Memphis, all of Bill Street. And I said, this is the guy. Because most people who wrote about Robert Johnson didn't know. They just put down something somebody said. Mm-hmm. Story short, my daughter found him. We called everywhere. But she finally found him. And he didn't make any shorts in connecting me. We got together immediately and met. He drove up from Virginia, and we talked. It came up about 3 times. Then I went down, and we drove everywhere, all over Mississippi, Tennessee, got information, ate the good Southern food, had a good time, visited great graveyards of the family, and then we went on with the book. And it didn't take very long. I think he did it in about 3 months. Of course, I had notes, and I knew all about Robert Johnson. Mm-hmm. So this book is really about my life with him and actually knowing him. And I plan to write a second book, if I make it, about life after what happened in this book. This is just to give the family ties. Mm-hmm. And that he did have a family. Most books out there doesn't carry the story about his life in Memphis. He was truly a Memphian, not a Mississippian.
Did you find when you were traveling, preparing for the book, like looking at all of your old family locations, that you had to at least locally try to dispel some of those rumors that had been told about Robert Johnson? Did you find yourself?
I didn't deliberately do it. I thought that was not as important of making people know that I actually knew him and that he actually had a family and that he was not abandoned as people thought he was.
Right. How many siblings were there total? How many children total?
Mama Julia had 11 children. Some died. Some died before I met them. So I only met my sister Carrie, Brother Robert, and my brother's son Leroy by Mama Julia. The others had passed on. I hope I dispel some of the talk about who taught him to play. He came from a musical family. My father played many instruments, like the mandolin, banjo, those old African instruments. So he didn't have to learn from Son House. He had a brother who was also his half brother, same mother but not the same father. And so he learned from him, and they played together, did house parties, picnics, funeral parties, just to name a few.
Whatever was available to play at,
That's
you
right.
go play at it.
And then he was exposed to all the people on Beale Street, all the renowned blues players like the Mississippi Sheiks, Memphis Sheiks, and I can't think of the father of the blues. He and my brother would do Louis Armstrong, and all the jazz musicians that were there, like Jimmy Lunsford, just to name a few. But we had people marching with blues through the neighborhood, and I can't think of the father of the blues as well as I know his name. You could peep through the trees on Beale Street through the park, and there he was playing his St. Louis blues. The guy, W.C. Handy, he was there. But we weren't allowed to cross that park because people did everything. They gambled, and you had your wine heads, and you just didn't cross it, go into it. But Brother Robert used to play over there. That's, I guess, in Church's Park. I'm sure you've heard of Church's Park. And my mother didn't allow me to go because everybody went.
And it's wonderful to think that he played more than just blues. Like, clear, he was versatile in his playing.
He played, he had an ear, and he could play anything. He played lead belly. I can't think of his name right now. Did Louis Armstrong. My brother would imitate Louis Armstrong, and whatever bass parts that he needed, Brother Robert could play that bass part. And let's see, he did country. He was a country music buff. And his favorite was Jimmy Rogers. So is my favorite because there was a close connection with Brother Robert and myself.
What do you remember most fondly about your time with Robert Johnson?
It's the times that we went shopping together because we always went to Beale Street to shop, most of us. And my sister was a seamstress, his sister Carrie. And I'd address her as Sister Carrie because she was about 15 years older than I. So she was more of a mother figure than she was a sister. So she practically reared me as she did Brother Robert. And I learned everything, to cook, to wash, to iron, shop, everything, from her.
With all of these stories, it seems like this second book, like, I would, not to say that I'd be disappointed hearing more about Robert Johnson, but honestly, like, I want to hear more about your life. Your life is, like,
this
amazing.
Is what my daughter says, that
your
you
daughter's
are
right.
Is important. But this second book would include my doing research in order to open the estate. And communicating with various bluesmen from Chicago, California. I've met them all. Even Johnny Winters, I've met him. He wouldn't interview me. And at first, I didn't understand. But see, my job was to find bluesmen who had done Brother Robert's music. And they would be sued for what they had earned. So he knew that, but at the time, I didn't know it. So he wouldn't, I don't blame him. He wouldn't tell.
He's running from you. What's one thing that you learned from your brother that you still hold with you?
Well, the closest to me and my brother Robert that I could always do together, and it was always in his repertoire. I knew all the country westerns, the classics. But Jimmy Rogers stands out in my mind because I could always do it with him. And so when my time came, I was always happy. I talk about it all the time. That stands out more than anything else. And taking me to the railroad to see the trains and see that steam blow out. And I love the trains. I can get on one now and stay all day.
Trains are the best.
It's a beautiful ride from Chicago to Memphis on the train, and I've done it many times.
Miss Anderson, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, no problem. It's an absolute pleasure. You've no idea. She really was a pleasure to speak to. And thanks, too, to Tim Erickson, who helped us organize getting her into the studio, because it is not always easy to move a 97-year-old woman, but she was a good sport about it. Once again, we're looking for your Juneteenth experiences. So if you've celebrated the holiday before, or looking forward to celebrating this holiday, no matter where, or are just finding out about it, let us know at the fab413@nepm.org or 1-800-639-9120. Tomorrow on the show, nerds, because they are my people. Black Nerddom in Western Mass with the folks from the Begin podcast. It'll be all anime, tabletop role-playing, comics, video games, board games, cosplay, and more, especially because they are gearing up to go to San Diego Comic-Con. Nerds are my peoples, to be sure. And we're going to talk with the folks from the Compost Cooperative in Greenfield. Trenda Lofton and Revan Schendler will help us understand how truly transformative the work that they are doing in and with often ostracized communities really is. They're doing such cool stuff, and it was such a cool conversation. Our director is Tony Diggin' the Pulled Pork Done. Our engineer is Betsy with the talkative child today, Lankto. Our technical team is Bart reconditioning the printers now, Rankin, Kara road tripping to the roadshow Foster, and Punk Rude Boy Dubé. Thanks to Spouse, Happy Valley Guitar Orchestra, Guitar Slim, John Lee Hooker, and the kids and the Gaslight Tinkers. I'm Khalees Smith. Join me tomorrow on the Fabulous 413. This is WNNZ AM 640 Westfield, WNNZ FM 91.7 Deerfield, WFCR 88.5 HD3 Amherst, WNNU 89.5 Great Barrington, WNNI 98.9 Adams, WAIC 91.9 Springfield, WAMH 89.3 Amherst, and streaming at nepm.org. It is fundraising time. Here's John Sutton with one more about giving to NEPM.
It's a lot of electricity going into all those radio stations, and we have to pay the bill for that. And how do we pay our bills around here? It's with listener contributions. We're asking that you step forward because 60% of our money comes from listener donations. It's how we keep the stations on the air. It's how we're paying for this brand new and, well, sort of brand new a program called the Fabulous 413. We're hearing so many good things about this because people are saying, I didn't even know half the stuff or more than half the stuff I'm hearing about. So we're helping you to discover where you live, kind of new eyes and new ears on your own backyard. Please support it with a contribution right now at 800-639-8850 or nepm.org.
It has been really cool to interact with everyone in the area, too, just getting feedback from folks and suggestions on where we should eat pizza because, I feel like it's been a minute since we had a pizza quest and we need to get that fixed because everybody really does need to know where the best pizza in the Western Mass is. That's just good community effort there.
Well, I think that the idea of trying to find the best pizza is really ambitious because what is best? Yeah.
Yeah.
But finding out where all this great pizza is, I mean, it makes me want to travel. It
right.
makes me want to, you know what? I'm going to go somewhere that I would otherwise not go to try this out. And that's the discovery part of what this program does, what this radio station does. And not just for the Fabulous 413. I mean, it was kind of audacious, but NPR named its flagship program All Things Considered. It's the spirit of discovery, right? Not half things considered, although if we didn't have listener support, it would only be like 40% things considered. So look, we're asking you to give because this is a place where you come to hear about the world, to learn about the news, but more important, to discover things that make your life more interesting. If Fabulous 413 does that, if you appreciate the work that Khalees and Monty do every day, please back that up with a contribution at 800-639-8850 or nepm.org.
Giving is really easy and doesn't take too much of your time. Just 2 minutes. We need your name and a little contact information, which we keep private. You can sign up as a sustaining member with a recurring monthly payment from your bank account or credit card, or you can make a one-time gift. It's easy on our website at nepm.org or call 800-639-8850.
And we ask that you support not only you're listening to this program, but you're listening to the entire radio station. We fit into your lives in so many ways while you're making breakfast, while you're on your commute, while you're doing your weekend chores. Please step forward and support that. If you can, become a monthly sustaining member. That's when the contribution comes out a small amount, $5 a month, $10 a month, right out of your credit card or your checking account. And we make it easy to change at any time. Support the Fabulous 413, Khalees and Monty, with your contribution now, nepm.org. The phone number to call is 800-639-8850. That's 800-639-8850. And please be sure to listen to the podcast or to tune in again tomorrow.